Well, we're doing something a little different on the program today this weekend. We're talking to Generation Z. As you guys know, we are Generation X, the best generation that was ever put together because we brought you guys the DVR and the computer and all the other fun stuff. Millennials, whatever, a bunch of whiny crybabies. But Gen Z, we'll talk to those guys. And so join us in studio is Steven Ember. Steve is a college graduate, recent college graduate, and he is Generation Z. So we're going to spend a little bit of time talking to him. So, Steve, my friend, how's it going?
I'm doing well, man. You got me a half day off work today, so that's always fun. I saved up my hours just to come here, And
you guys got to start aiming higher.
Oh, I know it. But that's half the reason I wanted to come, just to kind of talk about the employment market. Like, I think a lot of us, we learn about the employment market honestly through YouTube. Legacy media is kind of dead for somebody born when I was, and I don't think it's because. I don't think it's even really because it's bad, but I think a lot of it is just you can find more specific content on YouTube. So like for me, I might say like, what are recent college graduates doing in the job market? And I think the downside of it though is that a lot of it's just doom and gloom. A lot of it's, employers are putting out fake jobs. LinkedIn's not doing good. Like a lot of it's down. And, some of it's true, some of it's false. In my experience applying for jobs, I've probably applied to about, probably like 200 in the last 4 months. I've heard back from maybe a quarter of them.
Okay, well, let's start. First of all, before we get to your job search and job experience, where'd you go to school? What did you get your degree in?
So I went to Wabash College. I got my degree in English, and I minored in history. My main goal with it was try to get into the realm of marketing, maybe get into some creative sector for maybe producing commercials, maybe even getting into teaching, because, it's a versatile degree. Like one of my father's friends, is an English major. He ended up doing pretty well in sales, but before that, he was a legal aid. He was a substitute teacher. Just, it seemed like a good idea, but mostly like I've always liked writing fiction. I've always liked history. Not like conspiratorial, weird kind of history, but just, American history, like 20th century Europe history. That's mostly what I studied in that regard. But I learned a lot about like English frameworks. So I was fortunate enough to go to Carmel High School. And I say fortunate enough in this regard because Carmel forced us to take a course called Advanced Composition senior year. I don't want to get too into it, but you had to take it as a senior. It was a college credit, though. So I got to Wabash. I already had my English credit, so I could start freshman year, in a 200-level class. And what I thought was cool about it was, like, I was 18, and we were being introduced to all the frameworks you could learn about in, like, literary frameworks. It could be, like, we talk about Marxist frameworks or feminist theory or queer theory or, like, all this sort of deviant stuff that some people seem to be scared of now. But what was fun with it was that, like, you could really take a look at anything and use one of those frameworks to analyze it. And that was just our papers. I've never been super into talking about politics, kind of, sort of, casually with friends or, like, roommates in school. But going that route of college, kind of that humanities route, it was always fun to, like, see what news media and independent media was saying. Be like, ooh, I wonder what logical fallacy they're using this time, or ooh, I wonder how they're trying to frame like their projection this time. And it was always like you kind of feel like you're a young sort of savvy, like, oh, I really know.
You think you know everything, you know absolutely nothing.
You think you know everything, you know absolutely nothing.
But newsflash, that's every generation.
That's right. So and
we're talking to Steven Ember, recent college graduate, Wabash College, Generation Z. And so we're trying to talk about the job market from the Generation Z perspective. Are these guys all lazy? Are they just find a job? Or what the heck is going on here? So English major, history, you want to go into marketing. We can talk about the sort of the back and forth there, because I would argue probably should have got a marketing degree as opposed to a English history degree.
Well, so Wabash doesn't offer a marketing degree. It's a liberal arts college. They have a good alumni network, and I got scholarship money, which is one of the reasons I went there. It is an all-male college, if you didn't know.
I have some friends who went there.
Yeah. So, I mean...
we call them the Wabash Mafia.
Yeah, no, and that's true, man. I mean, we got donations for a football stadium in like 12 hours, And it was weird for me, like being a public school guy, because a lot of these kids were just like private Catholic school guys who kind of had their careers either lined up or close to it after college. And that really wasn't me, but I knew that, Wabash Mafia or not, like they made us go to class. It was a tiny campus. You couldn't skip class. Like I had 8 guys in my senior seminar English course. So I really liked it because like it forced me to do my schoolwork. You know what I mean? But I guess in relation to the job market, what's tricky is that guys from Wabash, guys from IU, guys from Purdue, pretty much all of my friends are confiding like, look, there's just not a lot of money out there. Even if you go to college or not, like a good example I think is like I saw McDonald's recently announced like, oh, we'll pay X percent of your tuition now. We're going to call it the McDonald's scholarship program, and it's like you're not just going to give them more money. And I sometimes do think like maybe that's an entitled mentality. Maybe it is. I mean, especially for something like that. But I did have one corporate.
Or it could just be a worker shortage.
It could be a worker shortage, yeah. I mean, but even if you are looking for jobs where you do kind of require a college degree, just the pay incentives are usually commission. I worked a sales job for about 6 months. It was in freight and shipping. I ended up quitting just because the tariffs kind of killed it, and I knew I wasn't going to succeed. It was just a job to have a job, but we were working 60-hour weeks. We were getting up at 5 a.m. using our own personal computers to like tag companies to call. I mean, it was a phone sales job. We were expected to stay once a week till 7, so 7 to 7. We'd work one Saturday every month, and it's not that I didn't like it. I mean, I had a great time with the people I worked with, and it was a cool job, but
it wasn't what you wanted to do.
Well, it's not only that. I mean, if you break it down, I did the math with some of my coworkers, and with the hours we were working, we were making about $40,000 a year. With the hours we were working at, even out to about $14 an hour. That is the starting wage at Walmart. So I feel like there's sort of a frustration of, going to college. Most of us are getting decent grades. I was fortunate enough to not have debt, but I mean, I can only imagine what it's like if you've got $50,000 in student loan debt and your best opportunity is being overworked for $40K a year at, the equivalent of $14 an hour. It's not that it feels unfair, like that I'm entitled to more. The other element to it is just, a lot of these companies are now posting ghost jobs. They're posting jobs to try to get a feel for the market of employable people. They're not responding in timely manners at all. I mean, I've had, just the other week, I got a reply from the Hershey Candy Company, applied to be a salesman. And I think I applied for that job mid-June or so. I got a rejection letter about a week ago. And, I'm lucky. Like, I'm lucky. I can save money where I work now, which is a grocery store. But like I said, I mean, if I was living alone, especially if I had college debt, I really don't know what I would do.
We're talking today to Steven Ember. Steve is a recent college graduate, Wabash College, Generation Z, 24 years old. Actually, young enough to be my son. Go figure. If he were white and I was white, and that whole thing. And if I went to I lived in Carmel, but I grew up in Chicago.
Yeah.
So we're talking about the job market from someone who's actually looking for active work. Went to Wabash College, got a degree in English and history. Wanted to go into marketing, but things sort of took a little bit of a different twist, different spin. Let me ask you this: one of the things that I did when I was in college, 8 million years ago, when there were only four channels in CNN, was I did an internship. WMBD television. I was a television radio broadcast major. Yeah. 4 months was a perfect internship in the entire world. 4 months, tuition waived, got like $3,000 for the semester to live off of. Did news packages, voice shots, did everything but basically anchor the news. Best experience I ever had from an intern in my entire life that opened up a whole bunch of other doors. Did you pursue any of those while you were at Wabash?
So with Wabash, the internships were they were sort of better and worse than you'd expect, mostly because they were very competitive. A lot of it was based kind of on like like, truthfully, we had a lot of internships for like Lilly and stuff. I mean, a lot of guys at Wabash were trying to go pre-med, pre-law route. And because of that, you know, you had those kind of internships, maybe not be the most available, but the ones that were like most coveted, if you will. That world never really interested me, and we didn't have a business major. So there wasn't companies like marketing companies or financial companies coming to just offer internships. And if they did happen, it would usually be like summer programs that some of the students would find on their own accord. Like maybe they were in a class talking about maybe like communications or something. I feel like a lot of guys might reach out to say their professor or whatever and say, hey, like, do you know any internships? That's just kind of how things operated there. It was a small school. Like there were 800 people at Wabash when I graduated. So I don't know if I can give a fair assessment of what the college internship pipeline looks like, just because I was in a unique position there. But I think a lot of it is like the competitiveness of internships that exists, I would venture, is a little higher than it was when you were in college. And that's not to demean your merit at all, man. Like, that's great that you had that experience.
Times change.
Yeah, but times change, and there's more people. Like, there's just more people applying to colleges. And the application process for college was crazy in the mid-2010s when I graduated. And I can only imagine what it must be like now. Like, I don't know if they search people's social media pages. I don't know if, I don't know how many extracurriculars need to be in now, but it just seems like the level of competition for a lot of things has gone up in a way that doesn't feel conducive to success, because most of these internships are unpaid anyway. So it would need to be like pure passion. And quite frankly, not a lot of apprenticeships exist outside the trades. And I just don't meet a lot of young people who have that kind of passion. I mean, I do have a friend who does do sports radio broadcasting, and his internships, if you will, was him personally reaching out to a baseball league in Alaska. Very cool. He got that gig, and he was working for the Glacier Pilots, but that was something that he had to actively go out.
Now, did you ever think about, hey, obviously Wabash doesn't have necessarily the best internship network, so to speak, unless you're going to like Lilly or blah, blah, blah. Just like, hey, I'm going to go knock on doors, and basically in the sales world, they could call make a cold call is what they call it in the sales universe.
Yeah. You mean like cold call and say like, oh, hey, give me a job?
Yeah. Do you guys have any internship openings, blah, blah, that type of thing?
It's been a few years. Quite honestly, my memory's kind of hazy on the internship opportunities. I remember what we did have like the Career Services Center, and that was kind of what you went through. Like, you would go and they would help you with like your LinkedIn profile or other internet profiles, and you would kind of market yourself that way. And that's a whole other thing that's kind of marked a change in the times too, because self-marketing on the internet is functionally the only way you're going to get any exposure in this market. And some people don't know how to do that, and that's kind of a shame sometimes. I mean, they might be incredibly smart and they might be talented at something, but not being good at manicuring your social media constantly might hinder you in that regard.
In other words, putting pictures of you being drunk with your friends, everybody doing the wet T-shirt contest isn't necessarily the best way to get a job in a place.
No. It's not that. It's not that. What it is really is that, like, there is a real lack of transparency in how these jobs are being listed. Hold on, if you don't mind, I have some referencing here.
Let me just do this real quick here. Steven Ember, our guest on the program today. Little thing we do on the radio, we just refresh every few minutes. We got people coming in and out.
Yeah.
Steven Ember, college graduate, 24 years old, Wabash grad, Generation Z, and having trouble finding work. Even though we say jobs are plentiful out there, everybody who wants to work, here's everybody who wants to work, we can't necessarily find anything. Now, Steven, go ahead. There.
Well, so if I could really get into the bread and butter
sure.
of it, when I was working in the corporate freight setting, it was freight brokerage. So this was a market that I still, I know enough about it to understand how it works, but in the grand scheme of its history, I'm not sure. We had crazy turnover. I'm talking 8 new hires a month, and after 6 months, maybe 2 of them would be left. So there was turnover there. But even in the hiring process, there is just such a lack of transparency in what's actually like going on the other end of this. I was interviewed by an AI about a month ago. It did not go well. I had to respond with my voice. It made mistakes, and that's not comforting You don't feel like any person is really looking at your resume. You know you're not going to get a phone call. Additionally, I never stop getting emails. Even if I do get rejected from a company, I'm still bombarded with emails. Or maybe I'm added to some
customer service list.
Yeah, some customer service list from a third party that's recommending me jobs. And if I click on a link, it's some web page I've just never seen before and don't feel inclined to trust. I already mentioned that it takes a while to be rejected. And, in addition to being put on customer service lists, I don't know where my data's going. I don't know any of that. I've had to put my email in hundreds of places. I've had to put my phone number in hundreds of places. I've had to release a lot of personal information about myself when I really don't want to. And the last thing I find is just a voice to talk to who works for the company. And it gets old quick. It really does. It really does.
Go ahead.
Well, no, were you going to say something?
No, Steven Ember, our guest on the program today. Steve, college graduate, Wabash, having trouble finding work. Like I said, if jobs are plentiful. Steve, let me ask you this. One of the things I was always taught early on is you don't necessarily have one resume, so to speak. You sort of tailor your resume for the job that you are applying for. I remember, back in the early 90s when I graduated from college, it was just sort of the one standard, resume, blah, 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 blah. But I would think that in the early part of the 21st century, it would be easier because you just basically, here's the company's mission statement. Here's what they're looking for.
Yeah.
Okay, let's take this. Now let's take ChatGPT, put those together and put together the resume that these people are like, oh my God, we should have hired this man yesterday.
Yeah. Yeah. Are you saying use ChatGPT to make a resume tailored to a company?
Yeah.
So I suppose, I don't want to be condescending and ask a question, but that's a good idea. And I'm sure you're not the only one to think of that. So if every new applicant is making the perfect resume, how am I a company to determine, well, why is it that all these people are perfect fits? How am I ever going to distinguish who's proper? It just is counterintuitive. And, even if you do get a job, we could maybe talk about this later. It's not super related to the employment market, but a lot of the doom and despair that the young folks in the States are feeling comes really from the lack of a third place. Do you know what I mean when I say that, a third place?
Go ahead.
So a third place is the concept of you see it a lot in Europe. I don't mean to what's the word, evangelize Europe too much. I feel like that's done a lot, but
used to live there.
Yeah, okay. So then so it's there's a lot of public transport. People walk a lot, and there are places maybe outside their apartment buildings or in the town square where adults gather and they talk and they do things for free. I feel like the closest recent memory of that, and maybe still the current thing, is a shopping mall. But realistically, I can't afford to buy anything of real value at a shopping mall right now in my life. If I go to a public park, it's either dead or full of kids and police, which is definitely not going to turn on, a bunch of young people hanging out at the park and doing whatever they want to. So there's no third place. There's no place you can go other than work or home. And what do you do when you're at home? You scroll and you watch Netflix. And it's easy enough for me. I'm not a TikTok user, believe it or not. I know that might sound shocking, but I'm not a TikTok user. I watch YouTube videos maybe when I feel like it, but it's on the television, so to me it kind of functions as television. But there's so many people I know who just scroll aimlessly all day because it's not what else are they to do. I know, you could be working on your resume, or bettering your reading a book, or something like. And look, people do that, but they're doing it at home. There is no third place. And especially in a place like Indy, we don't have light rail. We got a lot of stroads, if you know what I'm talking about. You got to go by car everywhere. Parking's expensive. Everything's expensive too. And, look, I know that this is sort of
first world problems.
This is sort of first world problems, and this is also sort of.
I was going to be polite and like, no.
This is also sort of,
I love you like a little brother, like my son, but you got a roof over your head.
And this is
you
also
got food in your stomach. You got some first world problems.
Yeah,
here.
no, and it's also kind of coming to terms with maturation and realizing.
Call me when you're being chased by Hutus with machetes and chopping off feet and that. Type of thing.
I totally know. But that's the other thing too. That's frustrating because I don't feel like anybody's talking about like real ways to legislate the behavior of some of these companies in terms of how they're putting out, open positions. Like, I'm sure you've heard of this too. Like, they'll put out positions knowing that they'll probably have an internal hire. But, you still receive hundreds of applicants, and it's just out there to kind of gauge the interest in the position. You know what I'm saying? Like, it's not that I'm saying that should be completely illegal, but there's absolutely no oversight.
But actually, to push back a little bit on that part, and Steven Ember, our guest on the program today, college graduate, Wabash, Generation Z, looking for work and having some issues finding work. So we're just going to talk about him and so some of the younger folks out there. For some that is, for some folks or for some companies, they have a policy they have to post for a certain number of days. Even though we have a perfect candidate in mind, we got to post this job for a certain number of days to meet our personnel requirements, blah, blah, blah. But more likely you are our person. Right. But also then, too, you may never know what's out there either because you're like, hey, this is my guy or gal. Yeah. But then again, hey, that person's actually an even better candidate.
Yeah, of course.
I just wanted.
Well, I mean, yeah, I understand what you're saying. Like that, there might be, we have to post this for a few days, but you really mean like a few days?
Well, like for like a month or so.
Okay, yeah.
For a certain amount of time.
Well, I mean, I feel like it depends on the industry, of course. It depends on the popularity, but it's just it really just seems like everybody I know isn't finding a job in the field they graduated in. And it's finance majors. Computers are just better at math than people are. AI systems are, trying to do predictive things, and there's a lot of investment in AI too. And believe it or not, though, I actually don't think AI is coming for our jobs. I know that might sound like a crazy take from a young person. I don't think it's coming for all of our jobs, believe it or not. it already came here with the self-checkout machine. So, it's been around.
No, it's funny you bring up the self-checkout machine because I remember when I grew up in, I lived in Springfield, Illinois before I came here to Indianapolis.
Yeah.
And this was like late 90s, and there was a grocery store chain called Jewel.
Oh, yeah, I know Jewel Osco.
And there was a cute cashier who I was always hitting on the whole time. And then one day, the cute cashier was at our station, but I saw these scan machines. Like what are these? Like, oh, these are self-scan machines. Like, what? Mm-hmm. Like, yeah, just basically walk up, scan your item on the UPC code, and you pay your money. It's like, wow. You know what this means? Like, yeah, a bunch of people around here are going to be out of a job unless they can show, hey, I have value to the employer. Now, luckily, she was cute and totally hot. And so, like, hey, well, hopefully you stick around here for a while. But then at the end of the day, same thing with the automobile, with the assembly line, with the bulldozer, technology changes unless we adapt to the technology.
Yeah, no, it's a tool. It's a tool for sure. I look at it more as a tool than I do a replacement, just because, like you said, I mean, technology advances in everything, and like, look, right now it's just language models and art generators mostly. I mean, there's probably stuff that you and I don't even know about going on in the AI world for sure, but at least for us, the masses, it's really just language models, art, maybe math or predictive models, or for science or whatever. But like I said, those are tools, and I don't think they're coming for our jobs. What I do think and do know is that AI is reviewing my resume, and that doesn't comfort me. I don't know, like, why would I tailor my? And I know what you said. You have multiple resumes for multiple job searches if you want, but it just it doesn't even feel like if I'm selected that, like, I don't know how to describe it. It's just there's no human element. There's no human element.
Could you do this then? Let's say we'll just use ChatGPT.
Yeah, okay. Yeah.
Hey, ChatGPT. I got a young guy here. His name is Steven Ember, college graduate, Wabash, art, history, English were his majors. Put together a resume for Steven that can get past the company's AI model.
Right. I mean,
and then it'll do whatever it needs to. Then I go through and nip here, tuck there.
Yeah. I mean, there's always employment history. There's always references reference letters. There's always cover letters. There's always, quite a few steps. And rejected or not, I'm still waiting 2 months. So I really do hear what you're saying. I use the tool. I mean, I've been using ChatGPT several times. Like, I've got resumes that I've written myself. I've got resumes that I've had, 80% of AI do the work. I've got kind of a good 50-50 split. They're similar enough to where I can like interchange them to the position I'm applying for. But really, I think the weirdest thing about all of it is that there's really not a whole lot of people to turn to, just because all the technology is so new. I don't think there are repeatable strategies that like guarantee success in terms of, this is how I can make a resume for a job in 2025. This is how I'm gonna, find a nice career path. Because even if you do get jobs, turnover rate's crazy, man. Lots of people are feeling like they want to quit. Lots of people, that's not even just Gen Z. The people I was working with at some of these jobs are, older than you and more fed up than me about some of these things. So it just feels like there's not as much wide open possibility to just get a job that actually pays well. And that's really what it comes down to as well, the pay. Because I mean, $60,000 in 1985 had the purchasing power of $180K today. I looked it up the other day, and that's there's just not, like I said before. It seems like companies will do anything but pay people more, and that's really the hardest part of it too. There just doesn't feel like there's a lot of security, even if you do manage to find a job you like.
Steven Ember, our guest on the program today, having a good conversation. We're happy he reached out to me a couple days ago. Say, Abdul, my name's Steve. I'm a college graduate, Wabash. I'm having trouble, finding work. I was like, well, good luck. I don't have any job openings right now. But he basically told me his story, not just his story, but a lot of young people that he knows from Carmel went to Wabash College. So it's not like he went to Sidewalk High or Concrete College or Cheatham U or someplace like that. Good kid, smart kid, just having trouble finding work. Steve, let me ask you this. Obviously, you talk about the computers, AI. Did you actually just go out and just talk to people and use your Wabash network, use your family network?
Oh yeah. I mean, plenty. But that's the thing too that I've always found like really ironic about my generation in particular, like, born on the internet pretty much around my whole life. I really couldn't tell you exactly how the hardware and code of these systems work. It's kind of like cars, like,
I put the key in, I drive it.
Well, yeah, exactly. And some people are passionate about it enough to learn about how to build these systems, and they're finding work right now, especially if they're building AI systems. It's just the new trend in hiring, I feel like. But when you're putting the key in and turning it on for internet job searching, it's idling for a long time and sputtering sometimes too, just because I don't really know how ChatGPT works. It's not something I've ever been interested in. Like, computer science just isn't my jam. You know what I'm saying? And I feel like there is a part of people that might want to, there have been a lot of ads that people push about, you can get a totally legitimate degree in AI studies after just 9 months of our weekly classes.
Yeah. Good luck with that.
And
one.
I feel like a lot of it too is that, like,
it's called a scam.
It's a scam. And there's even the thing like, okay, I'm an English major and a history minor. The biggest thing I get is, why don't you just go be a teacher? I honestly might. The money's decent enough, especially at IPS right now. But if you want to make more than $60,000, you got to go get a master's degree. And that costs money. That takes time. That's a commitment that might not everybody
but let me ask you this,
be ready
though.
for.
Let me ask you this. You talk about commitment, talk about time. My first job out of college, like I said, back in 93, I made $18,000 a year as a reporter, Bloomington, Illinois, WJBC radio, literally 141 miles up I-74 from here to here. Had a little apartment, studio apartment, $300 a month. A little 85 Plymouth Horizon car on a good day. I had to push it to kickstart and kick it into gear, the whole 9 yards.
Yeah, for sure.
But it was like, hey, this is my first job out of college. I'm not going to be doing this for the rest of my life. It's just a couple year stop. So I have a goal to get to AYZ. It wasn't going to be my last job. I mean, I did okay. A couple bills here and there. A couple times I had to write a check to the phone company.
Yeah.
I sent to the light company instead. The light company sent to the phone. Oops, my bad. Sorry about that.
Yeah.
All tricks and trades to do. But I would argue that actually makes us appreciate our success later on down the road. Like I said, you're just 24 years old. You got your whole life ahead of you.
I agree. I definitely think too, another part of it is that, especially when you find the right partner in life and you guys can live in the same space, that definitely helps in terms of cost effectiveness.
And by the way, I didn't get married until I was 40.
Oh, really? Yeah. No, and I mean, and that's gosh, you don't even want to know what online dating is like. I mean, that's a whole other can of worms that people could talk about all day. But I think really just cost effectiveness is what a lot of the frustration lies in too, because I'm not going to pretend to know what the purchasing power of 18 grand was in 1993. I bet it's probably comparable to today. But one of the things I've noticed in just amateur economics reading is like the biggest shift I've seen in terms of like what we're buying is that I appreciate it, man. I appreciate looking that up. But the biggest thing I've noticed in terms of like actual expenses, right, is that it seems like the necessities are getting very, very expensive, whereas the luxuries are getting very, very cheap. So an example that I always like to use when I talk about this with my friends is like the television. You know what I mean? You can get a 60-inch TV in 4K at Walmart for like what, $350,
yeah.
$400. I mean, a television set in 1990 was like $2,000, and it was also 200 pounds, and it had metal and
when I bought
crystal and
my first color television with a remote control and cable.
Yeah,
I want to say I paid maybe like $250 at Best Buy for it. I was like all excited. Hey, I got my first big TV.
Yeah,
I bought a flat screen 50-inch TV for basically the same price a couple months ago.
Yeah,
at Target.
Yeah.
So you're right. The price of technology goes down and things get a whole lot cheaper. Oh, by the way, 18 grand in 1993 is basically 40 grand a year today.
Okay. So comparable.
Yeah.
Comparable. You said you bought a TV back then for $250?
Yeah.
What kind of TV?
Oh, it was a 27-inch, with the big cathode ray tube in the background, non-flat screen.
Yeah.
I mean, now for $250, I get a really huge flat screen.
You get a huge flat screen TV, and I think that a lot of people are just kind of, it's funny. You don't want to sound like a too young and crazy person, but like you almost don't have a choice but to spend a lot of money on even it's like the printer and the printer ink. They made printers cheap and they made the ink really expensive. They made the TVs cheap and they made everything you need to watch really expensive. If you want to watch, like, I'm not huge into streaming just because I don't have the money, man. Like, Netflix is $12, HBO's $10, Hulu's $12. Double it if you don't want ads. Apple,
we have several streaming services in our household.
Yeah. And I mean, it gets confusing. It gets expensive quick. I mean, you could even talk about like I said, music subscriptions, gaming subscriptions, any type, Amazon Prime subscriptions. So, thankfully I'm not super into the online shopping world. I just don't buy a whole lot of stuff. It's partially because it's not that I can't afford anything. I just save money. I'm in a position where I can save money right now. But if you are, living on your own with especially with no degree, like if you don't have, like, we're assuming that this is talking about an average Gen Z with a degree. I can only imagine what it must be like if you don't have a degree.
I would argue a degree doesn't necessarily guarantee success, but a post-secondary education in the 21st century is almost necessary unless you're like a major athlete or basketball or got some super rock star.
Yeah, I mean, and look, we're obviously, everybody always says don't forget the trades. I don't think people forget the trades as much as they say they do. I mean, there's plenty of guys who want to go into trade work. But like, if you've got a high school education and you don't go to college, whether it be for money reasons or grade reasons or whatever, like, I really don't know how you're going to manage to make more than 30 grand a year.
A college degree today is basically what a high school diploma was in 1961.
It's funny you say that because my grandfather just turned 83 the other day, and one of my favorite stories he always used to tell me was he worked at a steel mill in between years at IU in the 60s, and he was making, even back then, like $15,000 a year if you made it up. Like he was making crazy money at the steel mill, but like he was born in Northwest Indiana and Gary, like it was just what people did back then. You know what I mean? But it's like now, there was a trade-off though. You made a lot of money, but there was a guy who had a wrench in his back pocket, leaned up against a railing that had some electricity running through it, got shocked pretty bad. He was okay, thankfully, but like, with a lot of these, I don't know. I'm not going to pretend I know everything about manufacturing, but with a lot of OSHA regulations and a lot of quality of work changes, a lot of companies is sent it overseas, man. So now the traditional money-making gig for somebody without a college degree is functionally gone. And if it's not gone, it's highly competitive. So like I'm struggling with a degree. I don't even know what and that's the thing though. Sometimes it's funny because you will see somebody without a degree, post-grad, and they're rolling in dough going into the trade schools, and you're like, ooh, I'm confident I didn't make a mistake going to college, but like, ooh, that sounds nice, getting a nice workout while you work, learning a trade, learning how to build stuff. Like, I wish I could build a deck in my backyard one day. That kind of thing sounds appealing. So, maybe that's good. Maybe it'll change the culture, I guess, of the young workforce to get back into, hard work, if you will. But at the same time, I think it's totally noble and totally worthy to pursue a college education like that. It's a great goal to have in life, and I think, quite honestly, my biggest fear with this job market is it's going to lead people even younger than me into believing college is a scam. I shouldn't go to college. I just need to work. And, like, I don't know. I don't think that's a good idea either. You know what I'm saying?
I get it.
But yeah, man.
Well, our guest on the program today has been Steven Ember, college graduate, 24 years old, went to Wabash, Generation Z, having trouble finding a job. My spider sense tells me, young man, that after this interview plays and all this various platforms, I wouldn't be surprised if you got a call or two.
I don't doubt it. And there's plenty of other things you could ask Gen Z about than just the job market, man. I mean, there's a lot going on that. Well, tell you what we'll do.
Give us a little while to get through some stuff. Again, you and a couple of your Gen Z friends on. We'll have a Gen Z discussion.
Oh, wow. You really would do that for me, man. Oh, great. Yeah, no problem. I have just the man in mind. I really do.
All right. Well, Steven Ember, nothing but the best of luck, young man.
Thank you so much.